I recently took a trip to Japan, and it has changed the way that I think about watches. And I want to talk about those things that I experienced in a three-part video. This is just part one of that series. And in this video, I want to talk about the only watch that I brought to Japan, which is this one. And there's a reason why I'm wearing it like this. But this video is talking about why I brought this watch right here. This is the reveal. This is the Casio watch, what I think is probably their best digital watch. If you're not familiar with this watch, this is the W86. This is basically your typical F91W look digital watch, except this one has the 50 meters of water resistance. It has this teal color. If you're interested in that type of color, again, to me, that was the one knock on this. I wasn't really too keen on this color, but I like it for the look, but I also like it for the extra water resistance. It has your typical, three function thing going. There's several things that I needed on this trip, and ease of use is probably the biggest one, because traveling with my family, two young kids, I needed something that would be easy, not just to change the time. I need something that could be easy to let me just go through the reasons. So let's talk about changing the time. Now, obviously, if you have a analog, it would be very easy to change the time of it. When it came to the digital watch, though, I needed something that, one, could be very reliable, so quartz was definitely going to be it. But second, it's a 19-ish hour difference from where at least I am, so I wanted that to be easy. In my head, I could just do it, right? Like, if you're talking about like an analog, it's just easy to do, right? You just change it. But I wanted it to be, again, and something that would be very reliable. And I was only going to bring one watch. I could have brought several watches or a couple of watches, for going out and anything. But it's like, I just wanted one simple watch, and something that I thought could work in several settings if we're going to a fancier restaurant, versus if I was just around the house and around where we were staying. So I thought this one fit the bill. It wasn't too dressy, but it also was a watch that I knew could get. I think I got a scratch on the front. I got dinged up quite a bit that I wouldn't necessarily worry about. So I needed a watch that was reliable. Also needed a watch that I knew could get banged around a lot, and specifically, I needed a watch that could actually do the water, had like a higher water resistance. Not that I would go swimming or I went to onsen, although the Casio does make an onsen watch, which I wish I could have picked up one, but I don't even think they were released yet, but I think they're gonna be released soon. I think that watch is pretty neat. But I needed a watch that, could withstand, going on the train and being banged around a lot, traveling, walking around, that type of thing. So I need something that I'm sure a G-Shock would have been perfect. In fact, I was thinking about bringing this small G-Shock, even though I don't particularly like it. I thought, well, this is pretty much what I could go with. The only issue was, because I don't wear this enough, I didn't want to be fiddly when it came to the functions of it. It has 4 buttons on it. It has all of the things, right? But when it came down to it, I needed a watch that I knew how to operate easily, and I'd have to think about it. And that's where this one came in, because this is probably one of my most worn watches, just because I wear it at night, and it's so easy. It has the good lume, all that good stuff. But I needed a watch that could withstand water, because if you're not familiar with their like bath style, at least in the home, it's the Ofuro bath, which is, I actually like it, but it's not like your typical bathtub where like you just go in, you take a shower, and then you're out. It's more like you take a shower, and then like you could like sit in like a separate tub, and then just kind of like chill and relax. So I needed a watch that, not that I would sit in it all the time, but if I was giving my kids a bath, it wouldn't be as simple as just spraying them down and okay, you're out. Like, they would want to get washed, and they want to sit and play in the tub So I needed a watch that could actually withstand the water, which is why, the lesser of the digital watches to me wouldn't have cut it. And I felt comfortable bringing this watch, it getting wet, not submerged the whole time, but just getting wet. And I felt like this one, would be it. I also needed a watch that, again, it needed to be reliable in the sense that I didn't have to think about it. If I had brought this watch instead, it could do all the things. It's 200. I mean, this is probably the watch I should have brought, but I had not practiced. I know practice is always a weird term, but I didn't want to be messing around with buttons. Also, this button here on the top left is not very reliable. But I needed a watch that I knew how to operate because in case I needed like a timer. So that was also another thing too, was because we were going to places. I needed a timer, or sorry, an alarm, I should say. Well, actually a timer as well, but I needed an alarm because I needed a watch where, in case we had to go somewhere early, I had to wake up early, and I'm usually the first one up. As you can hear, there's nobody around, even at six something in the morning. Everyone's still on Japan time, but I needed a watch that had an alarm. So again, that cut out a lot of watches in my collection, and I needed a watch that had a timer as well because when you're going out with kids, I have my phone to put a timer on, but I'm usually taking pictures and doing things on it. So I needed a watch that had a timer so that when we had to leave somewhere, especially, it's like, okay, we only have 5 more minutes and we have to go because we got to go catch a train, or it's time to leave because we got to go get lunch or to go eat. And so, of course, this has like a very, very basic timer and stopwatch. And so that was something that was really big. This watch also has like a specific timer, which I actually could set to like an actual time. But again, because I haven't practiced with that watch, I didn't want to mess with it. And I'm sure after a couple of days it would have been fine. Again, this was probably the perfect watch had I used it a lot. But actually, I've been using this. My wife has been using this watch. It's a smaller G-Shock. It's the GMD S5000 or S5600. Excuse me. It's like basically a smaller G-Shock square. I think this is great for someone with a small wrist. I could have probably gone with one of the Pro Trek watches, to be honest. But again, I use that primarily for visibility. And there's so many good features on the Pro Trek watches, but I needed something that would be reliable. And if it did get dinged up, if I did throw it around, because I didn't want the Pro Trek to be banged up as much, because I actually I like those watches. I like this one too, but I needed a watch that could easily be replaced. And of course, I could go buy this in Japan too if I need a replacement. Go buy it online, but I just needed something that was reliable. And when I traveled to Japan, I needed something that, again, it had to fit so many situations. And I was going through my watch collection, and I ultimately ended up on this. And I think this was the best choice for me. Could have gone fancier, could have gone 2-3 watches, but I didn't want to mess with that. I just wanted something that was simple and easy. So again, like I don't know if you've traveled, and had to think about this type of stuff, or you traveled specifically to Japan, you had family. But it's really interesting because as you travel, and if you have a lot of watches like I do, you have to make decisions, right? And it'd be different if it was just me on a trip versus bringing like a family. And I think I made the best choice. Again, this would have been probably the better of the choices. Given all things being equal, this is probably the best, most versatile one. Black, just it could take a beating, but I wasn't comfortable bringing it because I need something that I could not have to think about, and because this only has 3 things going for it, basically, plus the really great lume. This was the top choice, and also another thing I want to mention. Why I wore the watch like this. I don't normally wear watches on the inside. I'm sure there's like a history to it, and military history and things like that. But I was wearing the watch. I always wear my watch on the outside, and just wearing it this way for demonstration purposes. But I wore the watch exclusively on the inside the entire trip that I was gone, or the entire Japan trip. And the reason why I did that was a couple of things. One was potentially to protect it from getting banged up, because it was a rough trip. You know, like I'm carrying things, and you know, again, we're going on trains, and half the time I'm not sure exactly where I'm going. But secondly, I found that this was actually easier for me to catch the time when I had to check it. Now, I was so used to doing this, right? Like if you wear your watch on the outside, you're always like checking it like this. But I'm grabbing onto poles, you know, in a train. I'm grabbing onto bags and things. And I just found that the utility to having to view the watch on the inside of my wrist was so much easier, where I didn't have to, like, my hand is naturally down. And so I'm just naturally able to view my watch like this. Also, my wife was able to view my watch a lot more often when my hand, when it was on the inside of my wrist. So if she had to check the time, you know, she was able to do that. And because I think in Japan, things tend to be more based on time, because, you know, trains and things like that, they run on time. And so keeping track of time is pretty important. It was close enough, you know, it wasn't exact. I didn't like align it every single day. There's a bug here. I didn't align it every single day, but it was close enough. And so I had a general idea of like, okay, like, are we close? You know, when the train comes in, like, you know, 6:57, like, I'm thinking, okay, how much time we got left? Also, like, okay, we got to go to this location. I'm looking at my watch, okay, how many more minutes left based on, you know, the time they give you in the train. So I needed something I didn't have to think about, and digital to me was the best for that. But in terms of wearing the watch like this, that I found to be a lot better. I'm not going to wear it like this in the US, but for demonstration purposes, I just want to wear it for this video. But I actually found that it was quite good. And you know, we were going shoe shopping this one day. Well, we went actually a couple of days, but this one time we went shoe shopping, I noticed actually the salesperson also wore their Casio. I think it was the F105. They were wearing theirs, and they were also wearing it on the inside. And I'm like, oh yeah, see, this guy gets it, right? Like, he's a salesperson selling shoes, but they get it, right? Like, they don't want their watch to get banged up on the outside so much, but also to look at the time. I think it's actually easier. So again, I'm not wearing my watch like this in the US, but it was just for the trip. I wore it like this. You know, it was very humbling to only have one watch, and I liked it. You know, I didn't have to think about it. You know, and I think when you get into collecting, you start building up a big collection. Sometimes it can get overwhelming, but when you're forced to only pick one watch because you're on a trip, and frankly, I only had one watch, you know, I really enjoyed the experience, because now the watch became a tool, not necessarily a fashion statement or anything about that. It was a tool, and it was a good tool for what I needed in Japan, again, to cover all these different scenarios. And I know this would have been the better one. The G-Shock, not the Baby G, but the G-Shock would have been the better watch. But again, I just hadn't practiced enough, and I need something I didn't have to think about. You know, I need something that I wouldn't be fiddling with. So although this had all the features and it has a great light, I just wasn't familiar with this watch enough, and maybe that's a weakness on my part, where I really should be thinking about getting familiar with at least a core set of watches, so that if I do need to take it on a trip, I can bring this out, because this, to me, this is size-wise, this is great, and it has everything you might need, right? It's so rugged. But when it came down to it, I pulled out this one because I was just more familiar with it. So a lot of philosophy here with watches, but just something when you're on a 2-week trip, you know, you can't be bringing out all the watches. Like, which one are you actually going to pull, you know, from your collection? And something for people, I think, to think about, not necessarily when traveling, but just if you're gone for 2 weeks, which watch are you pulling for in everyday scenarios, when a lot of it is unknown, but a lot of it is also just, you have very general uses, and you have to take that into consideration. So just something to think about, and love to hear other people's thoughts. Again, this is part 1 of 3. It was a good trip to Japan, so just wanted to share that, and yeah, thanks for watching.